You are listening to 99.1 WQRT LP Indianapolis, and this is Create Here. Produced by artists and curators from Big Car Collaborative, Create Here is your place to listen to conversations with people making intriguing, innovative, and impactful things happen on the cultural front in Indianapolis, Indiana, and beyond. Find out more and access additional episodes at WQRT.org.
This is Jim Walker, and you are listening to Create Here on 99.1 WQRT LP Indianapolis. And I am here with Benjamin Berg, who has a show called I Can See the Pixels in Tube Factory Artspace's Jeremy Ephraimson Gallery. We're recording this show in January of 2025. You want to tell us a little bit about your artwork and what people see or would have seen if they came to your exhibit?
Yeah, so I Can See the Pixels is a glitch art exhibit. Everything in the show is created using the GIF image format, which is coming up on 40 years old now. So one of the unique things about the GIF format is that the file has a list of all the colors that are used in the image right in the top of the file. So you can do some fun stuff by taking advantage of that. What I do is I like to save these colors. It's called the color table. And so I like to save a color table and then reuse it for an image that doesn't have any of those colors, to try to force the machine to, create, to improvise on its own, to see, it has to pick from a bunch of bad colors, and it doesn't always pick the ones that you expect.
So with these pieces, then do you end up with, which we can see in the show, a kind of connected palette of colors? Does that lead to that if you choose it to? Yeah. There are certain ones that I use a lot, and there are certain ones that I don't use very often. So we're seeing brighter sort of, maybe some colors that people might connect to the 80s, some neon, more bright colors that would be like pinks and blues, and so those are ones that you choose to kind of be recurring colors for you. I save the whole set, but then some of them, I kind of pick because the colors look good to me or whatever. So, and those are, so how you're putting this together, how much of this starts out to be a little bit sort of random or chance based compared to making all your choices? It's pretty chance based, but what it is it's you create dozens of iterations, and then I pick my favorite ones, or sometimes I'll just pick it I zoom in on just a little tiny bit of an image and then zoom in on that. So it's I'm letting the machine do a lot of things for me, like chance operations, like you said, and then I'm being very selective about which ones I actually publish or whatever. And you start out, I know that you have an interest and do work with collage sometimes and have over the years, and that's how we first worked with you a long time ago at Big Car Gallery, was in a collage show. The work sometimes are you working with your own original photos to turn them into these glitch pieces, or are they mostly found, or a combination of the two?
They're usually my originals. Either a lot of the times they're photos, or if I'm doing some more abstract work, it'll be just abstract, I'll paint with the smudge tool, or I'll do generate clouds, and then in different color channels, so that you get lots of different kind of color variations, because the goal is to kind of force the machine to clash. There are too many colors and it can't use any of them. So it's when it kind of freaks out that you get the things you like. Yeah. And how did you discover these freakouts? Just messing with it? Well, I got into the GIFs the same way a lot of people do, because of the animation, and so I started making animated GIFs, and then after a while, in Photoshop, which I was using at the time, there's it would show you the color table at the bottom of the save screen, and I looked down there one day and I was like, I like that, and I just want to save that as an artwork. And so so a lot of the things that you're noticing
with this are sort of overlooked aspects of the technology
Yeah.
side of it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then do you feel like that you're pairing that with overlook, like some of the images that you work with might be things that somebody might not notice or take a picture of normally?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, have you thought about that connection between those two things, that your interest in sort of the outside of the main feature of something?
Well, yeah, some of it, like landscapes, I'm not necessarily looking for,
Yeah.
the tourist spot. I just find whatever. Like some of them that started out, like a lot of them started out as sunsets.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm driving around and the sun is setting and it looks good, and so I have to pull over and park wherever I happen to be to try to photograph it.
Yeah.
And so that's why you get like a sunset by a Walgreens or something like that.
So you started doing this work, you said, more than almost 20, at least 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why have you stuck with it? I mean, what keeps your interest in this? Have you seen things that have changed in technology over the last 20 years that have made you consider looking at this differently?
That's interesting. When I started doing it 20 years ago, there weren't necessarily a ton of people doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then it kind of got more popular. So I wasn't always working with the GIFs specifically. I kind of got it that sort of specialized because there were a bunch of other people working in the glitch art space. And I'm like, well, what's something that I can kind of focus on that other people aren't doing?
Yeah, and glitch is such a part of our life now.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You and I were talking at the opening night about, I like to catch those in videos that are uploaded on YouTube.
Yeah.
This is something that people have really gotten used to experiencing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And when they play video games or they are using streaming seems like it glitches way more than we would ever dealt with
mm-hmm.
cable. But I remember a long time ago, if you had a satellite, you got a lot of that, right?
When it would rain or it would, like a bad storm, I would have recordings on my DVR, and it would be a 30-minute show, and I would only have 6 minutes of glitched out programming.
And do you think that that's a way that is part of what you're interested in with that, is seeing you with your title of your show that you could see the pixels? Is that seeing the raw material of the digital product? Is that part of what you like about it, you think? Is it sort of stripping away to see what it's made of?
It's when a glitch happens, you get to see a different side of the system or the
mm-hmm.
technology that otherwise would be hidden.
Yeah. And that's kind of the role a lot of times of artists, is to bring that hidden part out and
mm-hmm.
highlight it.
Right.
Are there other ways that you're doing that with music and with audio? Because you incorporated audio in the show in a couple different ways, and I know that's part of your practice too as a creative person. So how do you connect those things?
I actually was making glitch music before I started making glitch art, and I did a thing. I had this was so long ago. It was in the mid '90s. I wanted to make music on my computer, and this was back when it was still hard.
Yeah.
So I went out looking for a software that would allow me to record my own samples and use them, which is extremely rudimentary right now, but at the time it was tricky. And so I got a program called Impulse Tracker.
Huh.
And so I discovered, just scrolling through the files on my hard drive, that it would let me play any file on my computer. It would say it's not a sample, but I would just press the key and it would play the sound.
The sound of what kind of file?
Of just literally any file you had. So an executable file or an image file, an uncompressed images often sound pretty good. So just any file on my hard drive.
So even a text. File what did it sound? What does was a file sound like?
Well, it really depends. Compressed files usually just sound like a bunch of static, just kind of shh.
Yeah.
Because of the compression, it forces all the data together. But ideally you want something like code or an uncompressed image or something like that, where you might hear patterns in the text.
Huh.
Pattern, they might get.
So where are those experiments still around that people can hear?
Oh yeah. I actually I have a few releases that are all just music composed out of the sounds.
Yeah.
And I actually put out a vinyl record with that material on it.
Where can people find all that?
You can find all of that at stalio.bandcamp.com.
And I remember, I think years ago, that the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did you just have a lot of these files as indexes that, on your website? Then you could just like go walk, like look through to find those? I think I remember that a long time ago. Like you had there was a lot of this that you've made.
Yeah.
Right. And you've always been pretty open source about sharing it. Mm-hmm. Why do you approach it that way?
Well, part of it is like this, some of this stuff is extremely technically complicated, and so you kind of have to make notes just so for my own memory. So like I'm never going to remember which byte in the JPEG is the packed byte or whatever, right? I'm not going to remember that kind of like which hexadecimal sequence you need to put where. So I write it down for my own benefit, and then just kind of publishing it, since I have to write it down anyway. Sort of like an open source exploration. And I think, honestly, my biggest legacy as an artist will probably be the documentation and tutorial side of some of the glitch work that I've done.
How have you seen, since you started working on this, we were talking about this a bit ago, I think, but as more of this has become part of how people make music or approach video and art in general, how have you seen this idea sort of change and become, is it something people are able to accept a little easier and not think like that it's, try like get what you're doing a little more?
To a certain extent, yeah. Like the glitch art scene kind of got really kind of blew up around like 2010, and it kind of became more incorporated into the mainstream, where now there's just like, you can just buy a filter, like an After Effects pack that will mimic various glitch effects. So a lot of the stuff that you see now isn't necessarily like, quote, true glitch. Like a lot of it is just like filters that have that kind of aesthetic to them.
Do you have a subgenre like group of people that connect with each other who work in this way, or either audio or visually, or is this kind of everybody's out on their own?
There's a big community on like Facebook, like the Glitch Artists Collective is like a huge Facebook group. I'm not really on Instagram or anything, but I know there's people on there. So there's a big community online,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
You do other things besides just work besides the glitch work. How do you connect this work to what and tell us a little bit about some of the other things that you do in terms of your artwork?
Like I said, I started more with a focus on music. So I do a lot of collage music, like plunderphonic type stuff. I do a lot of like heavy like beat type of industrial hard techno kind of stuff like that. I do, like you said, cut and paste, paper collage. Those are some of the big highlights anyway.
Are there sort of defining connections in your interests that bring those together in your mind?
Sometimes. Like or I have like similar ways of working where I like generate a bunch of material and then I get to pour through it, because I'll do the same like I was saying, like if I have an image and I just like zoom in on one little tiny bit of it, or that's kind of similar to the process of like when I was making the glitch music, I would have to sit there for hours listening to the different files on my computer, and then maybe I would only pick a few seconds out of one of them. So there's a lot of like generating things, or like similar to collaging, where you are flipping through magazines and then you find that one little thing that you want to use.
Is a lot of that process for you kind of a way that you enjoy spending time? Like even if you only, there's a little bit of discovery and all that time that you invest in it, does it put you in kind of a zone that's fun to be in?
Sometimes it's fun when you find the stuff. It can get tedious, definitely. The discovery is exciting when you find something, or even accidentally.
So it's a little bit like digital fishing or something, where you just finally catch something after a while. Yeah. When you're looking at sort of what the future is of some of these technologies, and you think about AI, for instance, the glitching and the errors and the things that can happen within these systems, do you see a future of more opportunity for this kind of work with technology advancing, or is it different? Like,
there's definitely still opportunities, and there's still people, working in that kind of space. Like the AI, quote unquote, machine learning stuff is still, like they say, it hallucinates. Like it just makes stuff up out of a whole cloth, or get blatantly wrong answers. Like you'll just Google the answer to a simple question, and you'll get like a comically false answer. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity to work in that space.
Do you think that there's a danger in it seems like visual glitch and sound stuff is very innocuous. Like, what can it do other than look a certain way or sound a certain way?
Yeah.
When technology starts to glitch or freak out or make mistakes like that, it's a different kind of potential outcome.
Oh, you can see all kinds of potentially bad outcomes if we start letting these automated systems like run things without any human intervention.
Do you think that I feel like the glitch music and art has always felt sort of futuristic and connected to sci-fi. You know, even like just looking at your image here on the cover of on your card that we used at the pyramids, it looks like a futuristic landscape or a sci-fi landscape in a way. Do you feel like have you thought of it that way? Like, have you thought of it? And is that something you're interested in, like thinking about the future and sort of the realm that is often explored in science fiction?
There's definitely that side of it. I also, like, paradoxically, people will compare this stuff to like really old video games. They'll be like the early 80s video games that's really big and blocky. And yeah, in that time frame, it felt like when we first got video games and when we were working with pixels, and you think about things like what's the game that kids play that they can build out of pixels? Minecraft. Like, a lot of that is still a very like utopian kind of idea that you're making these, like, you can build these worlds. Yeah. Because you can see the blocks that are there. And maybe that's part of the connection to why I'm thinking of it in a sci-fi realm, and that you can sort of see, it makes it so these elements are visible, and the sky is not a natural thing. Like, I think sometimes you see in some sci-fi movies and TV shows, like when they're in a hologram thing or like a holodeck, it starts to glitch. Yeah. And you can tell that you're not in the real world anymore. Right. There's a term like glitch horror. Yes. So it's in some ways, when I look at your work in the show down there, you're taking and using these pictures from the natural world and bringing this glitch aspect to them, like in certain areas. It can make you think of that, like, what if, like in the kind of Philip K. Dick kind of thing, what if the world isn't the screen behind this guy starting to fail? Yeah, because that's the way we experience so much of life, is through the screen and through mediated reality. I mean, is that stuff that you think about very often? Sometimes, yeah. There's definitely, like, increasingly, like, everybody's just looking at their phones now. So, yeah, people get a lot more accustomed to that, or thinking in terms of, like, video game actions and stuff. Like, all the time now I'm watching a movie, and I'll think about, this scene would work really well in a video game. Right. Like, this would be a good level. Yeah. If you were playing a game, you have to escape from this scenario in X period of time. Have you looked at, or do you use VR or AR much? Have you thought about those? I know a lot of people who do, but I have personally never put on a headset or anything like that. Yeah, I'm very interested in it, and I think that augmented reality is probably more along the lines of what we're looking at here, where you could
look out at the world and see it in its reality, but you could augment it with a sky that's pixelated pink and blue and yellow or whatever. Do you, the title of your show, when you look at the regular world, do you ever see it through that lens? Like, do you ever see the sunset and kind of imagine what it would be like if it were glitched out without making it happen?
No, I can't say that I'm looking around like waiting for the sky to break or anything.
I mean, can you? So when you look at it in your regular eyes, you don't ever see it translated into the glitch version.
No, that would be fun.
Yeah, I think the painters, I would imagine, and some people, illustrators and painters, might be able to just look at a bowl of fruit and then like see what they want it to be.
Like part of it, because like my process involves like just kind of letting the computer go wild, and then I come in, so I don't necessarily know what it's going to.
Right.
Like I have an eye for composition, and I can see I want the image to be kind of cropped like that, but beyond that, I don't necessarily know what it's going to look like.
Yeah. So you've been where we're talking a lot about now, utilizing technology as a collaborator through AI or whatever. You've been doing that, and a lot of us have been over the years by just messing with the computer. And typically, a normal approach would be to utilize it correctly, where you're trying to sort of break its system.
I'm trying to play around and see what happens if you kind of misuse it. Like the people who make software or other systems or tools, they have certain assumptions, like ideas in mind about what people are going to do or how they're going to use the product. And I kind of like to kind of try to violate those assumptions and say, well, I'm going to do this in a different way and see if it still works, or if it works, in a more interesting way or something.
It seems like maybe it's just such a human tendency to try to hack these things.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like, I remember when I was a kid trying to play video games like Atari games or more basic games, and you would always find this weird place where the character would get stuck in the corner, or like weird like freezes. You remember that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah.
And people love that, and there's probably YouTube videos full of just like screen recordings of these.
If you go looking for game glitches or exploits, there's going to be a lot of stuff. You get stuck in the wall kind of thing.
Yeah. What do you think that we like that stuff so much?
Well, people get mad if they're trying to like get a record and then the game breaks, but it's just fun because it's like you're just seeing something behind, or like things that you weren't supposed to see.
Yeah. It kind of goes back to, David Lynch passed away here recently, and there's a lot of connections in his work to the Wizard of Oz. And it feels like we all have such a fascination with that, the person behind the curtain running the thing, and these glitches are giving us that window into what's behind it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Where do you want to go with what you're working on now and next? And, how has having the show and being able to share your work kind of affected what you're working on going forward?
Well, that's a good question. Like a lot of this stuff was done using a really old copy of Photoshop, and I'm going to have to stop using Photoshop because you can't purchase it anymore. Like I used to have a legal copy, and they basically disabled my ability to install it anymore. They want you to buy it every month.
Right.
A monthly subscription. So I only have like one computer basically that still runs this old version of Photoshop. So I'm going to have to, even if I wanted to keep working in specifically with GIFs, I would have to come up with a whole new workflow. So I'm not really sure where things are going to go. That way, I'm focusing on music right now. Trying to put out my first record under the name Old Man Glitch. I probably would have put this out last year if I hadn't been doing the show here at Tube Factory.
Right. So tell us again how people can find your music and to get to you online, like if they want to visit your work.
Well, so a lot of stuff is under the name Stallio, like Stallio. So if you look for Stallio, I have a Bandcamp. I've got a Threadless shop. I've got a SoundCloud and that kind of stuff. For the website, I have my personal website is animalswithinanimals.com.
Okay.
And if you animalswithinanimals.com/bent is this like a glitch art page with a bunch of links relevant to both to the show and to other stuff, like links to music or my YouTube and stuff like that.
Well, I want to thank you, Ben, for your time. But Benjamin Berg, I can see the Pixels as the exhibit at Tube Factory, and we really appreciate it and are glad to have this opportunity to show your work.
Oh, yeah, great. Thanks for having me.